Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're checking out 6 different onboard air options for our off-road rigs over here. We've got completely different setups. We're checking out 2 vehicle-mounted compressors, 2 portable air compressors, an air tank, and lastly, a power tool. So this is gonna be pretty cool to compare all these. Oh. So I've seen a bunch of videos of people comparing air compressors and air tanks and things like that, and it seems like only 2 things they're really concerned about is how much does the system cost and how fast does it air up the tires. Well, to me, there's a lot more to consider when you're trying to buy one of these setups. I wanted to just compare as many different things as possible and also compare the different specifications of everything. You know, how long does it take to air up, and also like the convenience, what else can you use the air compressor for, things like that. First of all, I guess the first question is, why do you want to air down your tires for off-roading? All right, Paul, give us one reason why it's good to air your tires down for off-roading.
It's softer.
So softer ride?
If you had your tires at full pressure, like hitting off of rocks, it's a rough ride. They actually give you a better footprint to go over rocks, and it's not a rough ride.
Tires down.
Better traction, especially on big rocks and in the mud. Tire will form out and be able to get better traction.
I agree 100% with what those guys were saying, but I think there's even one more. In my opinion, I think tires are tougher when they're aired down. They just give a lot more. You know, if you hit a sharp rock or something, in my opinion, they're less likely to puncture or get some sort of damage to them. If they're aired up really high, it's easier to take a chunk out of them. All right, so we've got 38 1350. These are 33 1350s, right? Or 1250s. Okay, 33 1250, and then Corbin's got some 40 1350s over there. I think the 40, they're starting to get a lot more popular. 38's probably the least popular, but the 33 is a very common tire size, so a lot of overlander guys have a tire around that size. So we're gonna do all of our tests today on Paul's Samurai, and what we're gonna do is try to keep it as even as possible. Some of these tools and equipment, they have their own coupler on it, so we'll stick with that, but for anything else that can use a hose and gauge, we're gonna use the same blue hose with this power tank gauge on there, just to try to keep things even. So what we'll do is we're gonna assign a point value to everything. That's going to basically just rank it. So at the end of this, we'll see which one of these systems has the most points, and that will be the overall best choice. But then we're gonna talk about why these might be good for a specific situation or specific vehicle. So first category we're gonna talk about is the price. So first, let's go over which setups are which. So on the Jeep here, we've got the ARB dual air compressor hard mounted to the vehicle. On Paul's Samurai, we've got the all-top air compressor, and then Corbin has the Smittybilt portable air compressor that looks like this. We've also got the VIAIR 400P, and then a DIY air tank CO2 setup, and then lastly, the rigid tire inflator. All right, so let's talk about price. The dual ARB, this is probably the most expensive one. This one is about $700 for the compressor itself and the air accessories that come with that bundle. The all-top compressor, how much is this one running, Paul? Do you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what I found too. So that's a drastically lower price than the ARB. All right, the Smittybilt that Corbin's using, I looked at that one. That one's about $200 now. The VIAIR 400P is also around $200. The DIY air tank setup, this whole setup cost me about $350. You can do it for a little bit cheaper. The power tank ones, like the best tank you can get, those go all the way up to like over $700. So there's quite a range there. And then the rigid tire inflator is about $75 from Amazon. You might be able to get a better deal if you go to one of the home improvement stores. First category, going off of just price. The ARB air compressor is in last place there because it's the most expensive. So second to last would be the air tank, because that was about $350, could be all the way up to $700 like the ARB. Okay, next is the Smittybilt at $200. Then the VIAIR was slightly less, so that is the next one with 4 points. The next is the all-top with 5 points for being about $160, and then the cheapest one by far is the rigid tire inflator at $75 a piece. Okay, so Paul is airing his tire down to 10 psi. That seems to be about the average of what people air down to. You know, it's all dependent on how heavy your vehicle is and the size of the tire, but 10 seems a very reasonable amount. So we're gonna keep airing his tire down to 10 psi, and then we're gonna air it up to 25 psi, which seems like a pretty average road pressure. 10 to 25. We're gonna time how long it takes for all of these. We're gonna start with the ARB, and this mount is to the engine, and then it just comes off of the coupler on the bumper. We're gonna air it up and we'll see how long it takes. All right, so that was pretty much 1 minute on the dot. 15 PSI, that's not bad. We'll see. The next one we're gonna do now is Paul's all top that's mounted on the Samurai. Aired down to 10 PSI again. Now it's time to run Paul's air compressor setup. So Paul, how is yours routed through here? So yours is mounted to the fender, the inner fender.
So in the Samurai, this used to be this spot right here. The stock jack used to sit under the hood, so I cut off that and mounted it, made a heat shield for the compressor. But yeah, so I got the all top mounted, and then I built a manifold where I can air down just through here, watch the pressure, and then it just distributes out through the whole vehicle. So inside each of the wheel wells, there's an air chuck that I can hook to. There's also a 5th one on the rear, so I can help somebody behind me. All I have to carry is just these short little 4-foot hoses, and I just have 4 of them.
All right, so because Paul normally runs his through his plumbing setup down here on the frame, he's just gonna use that same hose. So we're at 10, we're gonna get the phone ready, and we're gonna go up to 25. So for yours, Paul, you need to start it up here though, right?
Pretty much hit the switch on the compressor. 26 decibels. The difference. Yeah. Shut it off every now and then.
All right, so that was like 245, we'll say, for the 15 PSI. Airing back down to 10. Now we're gonna check out Corbin's slightly modified Smittybilt. He has his, instead of just having the hose come out of it, now he's got a coupler on there. I think he's running some bigger diameter stuff, and then you can see he's got 3 couplers at the end, so that's cool. And this one runs off of the battery. So he's got some clips up here. He's gonna throw on the battery there, just sits on the ground. Down to 10 PSI. Hit the timer a little bit late, so it's actually about 120 for the Smittybilt. All right, next up, VIAIR 400P. $155 for the VIAIR. All right, next up, we've got the air tank. We were just talking about how this regulator can go up pretty high. We've got it set, it's just a little bit over 150 right now, but we'll keep it at 150. We'll time this baby, 10 to 25.
There you go.
Could air up in stealth with one of these. There's barely any sound. Holy smokes, that was fast. So at only 150 PSI on the regulator and a normal valve, this thing aired up to 33 in 45 seconds, so that's pretty damn fast. All right, last one. We've got the rigid tire inflator. So this is got its own hose and coupler in there. We can set it on the back to 25. We'll see. I'm not sure if this one's gonna stay on by itself or if we're gonna have to hold the trigger down.
Okay, yeah, it said set auto.
Okay, so do you have to set it once you put it on there? Is that how it works? Yeah, I think you just push it on there and then slide the lock down. It's turned a little bit higher just because we were using a different gauge, but did you already set it to 25?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, hold on. Let me just verify.
Cool. Yep. So we set 25 on the gauge. Go ahead when you're ready.
Yep. Guess this will stay, right?
Yeah.
About a minute.
I mean, that's the smallest one. It's probably going to take a minute. Still shows 11 PSI on there, which is weird. We'll give it to like 3 minutes and then we'll just figure out what's going on. Yeah, because if we see that thing tick up to 12, it's gonna be like, uh-oh. The guy that loaned this to me, he's running 35, so. 440, or was it less than that?
It was like 435.
Okay, so 435 for the rigid tire inflator, which I think is pretty dang good for such a small unit. So that's all of them. That's all 6 of the systems. The fastest was the ARB. Paul. Actually, sorry, the fastest was the air tank. Next, ARB. Then the Smittybilt, the VIAIR, the all-top, and then the rigid was last at 4 minutes 35. Next category is duty cycle. And really what it is it's just like the operating times for a piece of equipment. So it's how long you can run it before you have to turn it off and give it a break. You can turn it back on and start using it again. So I think we all know right away the best one is the air tank, because there's no duty cycle. It's just air moving through the hoses there. So the air tank takes that one. And then the next duty cycle was, I think the ARB has the highest because it's 100% duty cycle at 60. And then the next after that was, I think it's yours, because yours is 60% duty cycle at 40 minutes. So what that means is, for like the ARB, 100% at 60 means you can just run it for an hour straight. It's not a problem. With the all-top being 60 at 40, what that means is it can run for 40 minutes straight, and then it has to take a cool down period for 30 minutes. But we saw the times for airing up already, so that's not even a factor. I mean, we aired up using the all-top in 2:45, so that's 12 minutes. You could air up 3 people before you even need to turn it off. So 4 for the all-top. And then, do you know what it is for the Smittybilt? Any idea?
I think it's the same as the all-top, 60%.
Okay, so we'll say 60% at 40.
VIAIR.
The rigid is it's 50% at 5 minutes, so that's the least of all of them.
Wow, yeah.
You can basically run it for just 5 minutes. You got to be done for a while. And then the VIAIR is 33% at 30 minutes, so that is the last one. The next topic we're talking about is portability. So obviously it's can you use this to use on another vehicle? Can you take it out of your vehicle? Portability, what do you guys think is the most portable? We're talking size, weight, ease of handling.
I mean, you got what, the
rigid one?
The rigid one.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, without any other thing factored in, I agree. I think the rigid gets most points there. So our 2 fixed ones are going to be the last one, because they're not portable. They're stuck on our vehicles. So that, in this category, that is a downgrade.
Yeah, I got you.
Mine probably would be easier to remove. You have plumbed stuff.
Yeah.
2 ARB and then 1 for the all-top. Okay, but after the rigid tire inflator, what's the most portable one? Probably the VIAIR.
VIAIR's a little smaller, a little more compact.
And it's a tiny bit lighter. And then the Smittybilt after that. We weighed the air tank. That weighs, it was like,
0.8,
it was like 45 pounds. That's a lot. That's a lot of weight. You've got to secure that thing in there. Okay, yeah, the air tank is portable, which is great, but it is super heavy. The vehicle mounted ones obviously aren't portable, so we just did it based on which one would be easier to take out. And since Paul's is plumbed in to the air source, I don't know. They're pretty close. We'll see what it comes down to. If it's a tie at the end, we can talk about it more. So the next one is convenience, this is where we talk about yours being mounted on there and stuff. Like, which one of these do you think is the easiest to use? So like, if somebody isn't used to off-roading, or like your wife's tagging along and you're like, hey, can you air up these tires? Which one would be the easiest to do? Like the least amount of work, least amount of like training somebody on how to do it?
I mean, honestly, it would probably be yours. You've got the chuck mounted right on the front of the truck, right? You got to just hit a switch on the inside and then go to each tire, right?
Yeah, so I got to hit switch, put the chuck in, connect it to all 4 tires. How's that different from yours, though?
Well, you usually got to take off each one.
Yeah, with mine, it just has the short jump hoses, right? So in each wheel well, it's got the chuck that I have to hook up the jump hose to each tire.
Right.
And then I haven't hardwired it, so I gotta run the wires over onto the battery, connect it, hit the switch, and then I'm good to go from there.
We'll say for now, we'll give it to the dual ARB. That one's the easiest to use because it's just switch and hooking it up. Your setup is easier than the VIAIR and the Smittybilt, or do you think those are easier?
Those would probably be easier than mine, only because, right, there's a little bit of nuance. Sure. People probably don't know, like, I gotta get these hoses, hook them up.
Okay.
Because you just open the hood, clip on the battery, and then hook to a tire.
So your Smittybilt, when you bought it, did it just have the regular tire? So
you could just direct connect to the...
Yes, you go to the battery and then you just have to plug it in. That's probably the next easiest one. And then the VIAIR's just behind it, but it has its own hose setup that you have to do. So we'll ding it on that. Then the next is, I don't think the air tank's the easiest one.
Yeah, I mean, someone that's new to off-roading and you gave them that, you're like, all right, hook that up. They would have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think you can also, if you don't do it right, you can hurt yourself with that one because there's a lot of pressure in it. The easiest. So we're at, right now, the 3 we have left is your all-top, the air tank, and the rigid tire inflator. I think probably, I'm gonna do yours next though. 3 points for the all-top, and then air tank I'm gonna give only 1 point because it's the scariest. And then the rigid tire inflator, we didn't even know how to use that when we were doing it.
Oh no,
and when we were going to air it up, it just said a 11 psi on the gauge and it sat there for a minute. We didn't know if it was working or not. We'll give that one 2 points for that. There's the last category. This is what can you do with the air compressor besides air up the tire? So getting more bang for your buck. What other things can you do? So what do you think the most useful one?
I'd have to say the ARB dual or the air tank.
Yeah, I'd say the same. So, because the air tank you can run tools off of, like that can put out some continuous pressure, and there's no duty cycle on it.
The downside is you run out of CO2, it's done.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, and with the ARB, if you add a tank, you can also run power tools off of it.
That's true. Yeah, maybe not as for as long.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think the air tank probably will take it because I know Nate from Dirt Lifestyle, he runs an ARB locker off of his tank.
Yeah, you can add a manifold to those.
Yeah, so you could plumb it in, you could use it for airing up your tires, and you could run lockers and power tools. So I think power tank or a DIY CO2 tank is the number one. What do you guys think?
Followed by the ARB
for
dual.
multi-purpose, yeah.
Okay, so next would probably be yours though, because you could do the same thing with yours pretty much. You're like one step away from it.
Well, because mine, I mean, the way that I made everything plumbed in, right? So there's a air chuck in each wheel well, but there's a fifth one all the way on the back.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, you can help a friend with that too. The 2 portable air compressors and the rigid.
Yeah, for those,
Did the VIAIR come with like little fittings to like blow up a ball or something?
I think it did. Yeah, this one does too, and I'm sure yours
mine did too.
So
those are all a tie pretty much.
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same for multi-purpose. So, you know, I might give the edge to the rigid on this one just because of what we were talking about earlier. With that one, my buddy Eric that loaned that to me, he has 4 of them. If you're a weirdo like me that has way too many cars, you could leave one in each car. That part's pretty cool. So multi-purpose, I think that kind of fits into that category.
Yeah,
and that one you can just like take over to a buddy if they have a flat tire and air them up.
Yeah, the Smittybilt and the VIAIR multi-purpose, they're not really that different, but I'd probably give it the edge to Smittybilt just because it's more powerful. So if you did try to plumb it in to use it with something else, that would be easier to use than the VIAIR. All right, so I got home, we added up all the different scores for all the systems, and one thing to keep in mind here is that this was very subjective, right? So like the first 2 tests, so it was the price and the speed, those are just facts. So that's what we actually observed. The rest of it was pretty much just our opinion. So, you know, we tried not to take this test too seriously. It's mostly just like kind of a fun way to get together, compare some systems, and get some more info for you so you can decide, you know, which one of these is gonna work for you. I haven't even shown the results to Paul and Corbin. I don't think they were too concerned because they like the systems they have. But let's check it out. Let's see who got the most points overall and see if what you predicted was going to happen actually did happen. So here's the spreadsheet. The most surprising thing to me here is that there were so many ties, right? First place was a tie between the ARB dual compressor and the air tank, which is funny because those are both my systems and I really enjoy both of them so far. Then for second place at 21 points, we had Smittybilt. So the Smittybilt was just like a really overall is very good general purpose air compressor, onboard air. And then tied for third, a 3-way tie at 19 points, we had the all-top compressor, the VIAIR 400P, and the rigid tire inflator. The thing that stands out most to me with all of this is the ties and how close the points were. You know, I thought some of these were gonna blow the other ones just out of the water. What I've learned from this experiment right here is that it doesn't really matter. Whatever air system is gonna work for you, that's the one you should get. And when we were doing this test, I don't think any of us were really like trying to skew it to, you know, give ourselves some confidence in the system that we bought. We were just like, hey, this is a system I have, I love it, let's compare it to some other ones. So if you are really hung up on which air system to buy, I wouldn't be. Just find the one that works best for you and go with that. A lot of people are concerned with the speed. Honestly, that was a thing for me too. I'm like, I don't want to be sitting here forever airing up the tires. But really think about it. If you're out on the trail with your buddies and stuff, do you really care how fast the tires are gonna get aired up? I mean, hopefully your buddies aren't gonna ditch you if it takes a little bit longer. Or if you air your tires up really fast, are you gonna ditch your buddies? No, of course not. Only things to consider, I would say, is, you know, if you have not a lot of room in your rig or a disability, maybe it's hard for you to move the big heavy air tank around, maybe look for something out. If you have a big budget and you want the fanciest one, maybe get the ARB compressor. If you're not really airing down that much, or you know your budget's a little bit tighter, maybe get one of those portable air compressors. The point is, I don't think it matters that much, guys. I hope this test was an interesting way to do it for you guys. We had some weather coming in, some video equipment malfunctions, and a really tight timeline. If there's something that you wanted to see and you didn't get to see it, or you think we should include in the next one, definitely put it down in the comments. Also, if you want to look at any of these air systems for yourselves, check out the description. I'll put a link to everything on Amazon. Some of the prices might change depending on when you view this video. Overall, I'd say I had a great time doing the test. It was eye-opening for me. And am I going to change what I'm personally doing? Probably not. And are Corbin and Paul going to change what they're doing? I don't know. Maybe this test opens something for them. We'll see. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. See you guys in the next one.